Okay, I'm going to do a part 2 to this video, creative process, part 2. For people that want to know a little more detailed creative process, so if I'm working on a track, what is my actual creative process? So I will break this down into two scenarios. If I'm working by myself or if I'm working with a musician in the studio with me. So if I'm by myself, I typically figure out a tempo and a key, as I mentioned in the other video. Tempo and a key, kind of a general idea of, is this dark track? Is it happy? Is it what's the general direction I want to go with this? And I start out usually with a chord progression or some kind of hooky type melody. I don't know what is it people call it now. I think people just call it melody, which is weird. Terminology gets so like adapted, I guess, to what usually people say. You do the melody on that? It's like melody, like can a chord progression be a melody, or like is the melody like a lead line? That's how you know I'm getting old, I guess. Uh, okay, so the musical elements. I will come up with, like I said, a chord progression, or it. A lot of times, I'll kind of know what kind of sound I'm looking for, and sometimes I don't, and I'll just skip around with different plugins. Right now, I'm using an Arturia. Um, I can't remember what it's called. There's like this Arturia package I have with all these vintage synths on it, and really just cool stuff. And just like I said, it depends on what kind of sound you're going for. And I know in my career that I had different phases. You can tell how I was writing because you say, oh, it must have started with chord progression, or I was using a lot of pianos or a lot of strings or synth or whatever. Like, because now I know it's like really warped, dark, kind of vibey. There's that word again. The word of the book is vibey. So it kind of sounds, and then build around it. And like I said, I kind of know the key I'm going for, if it's minor or major. And then I don't know. You can't teach creativity. You cannot teach creativity. I know Bob Ross did it with painting, where people that could not paint could paint. And the reason they were able to do that is because it was all technique. But with music, I guess you can still do that because there are arpeggio generators and chord generators. I'm definitely of the old school where it's just, create something original is it's kind of snobbish and it just is. Um, so I come up with these melodies or ideas first, and then that kind of gives me a general direction. A lot of times I will produce from like chord progression and melody with a tempo just to a click, and then maybe the drums might start hitting me like an idea for the drum pattern. What kind of drums do I want? Are these like studio drums? Like, I produce so many types of music that it just depends. It's like if I'm producing a singer songwriter, if I'm going to stick with that style, I'm not the kind of producer that says, well, I'm a this kind of producer, so I only use, trappy drums or rap style hip hop, like vinyl samples. I don't do that. Sometimes I use slate drums, which are actual studio acoustic drums, and programmed drums. Depending on, obviously, if you have a drummer, you can do that too. So it's just like building a song. Sometimes too, I may have a drum pattern idea, usually a kick and snare, kind of pattern, and then fill that out. I'm very organized with the way I think about bass lines. With bass lines, a lot of times I used to use this terminology that threw people off, and I called it kick drum on, snare drum off, which meant I would do these cool like synthy or like sub bass lines where when the kick drum hit, the bass would start, but then when the snare hit, the bass would cut off. It gives this really tight, kind of cool sound that you probably have to hear to get it. But that was just part of my sound for a long time. Um, but once again, there's no rules to it. Only the ones you apply that are to kind of become your style. And then a lot of people have started using, and I do it as well. Use effects on your sounds. A lot of times people make beats or whatever, and they don't like. You can use all these cool effects. There's so many cool effects out there on your sounds. If you have a piano part and it just sounds kind of typical and dry, like distort it, put some weird delay on it, just try some cool shit to where it doesn't even sound like a piano anymore. Um, and that's really in sound design. And speaking of which, that's so. By the way, that's how I create. Is usually the melody, chord progression, move on to drums and bass at the same time, and then kind of fill it out with any top end stuff. And when I produce or write music, basically, I don't, to me, it's just, I think in frequencies. So a lot of times I'll say, well, it needs this. Maybe it needs like a cool guitar, like this little teeny guitar part, or this like fat, synth thing just kind of, you know, bubbling underneath. I don't, I can't explain how I do it. It's how my brain works. Um, which is why it's so tough to talk about music and describe like how you do it. It's like I don't know. I really don't. Now working with other people, I like a lot more. I'm not that great at coming up with ideas from the ground up, but I have friends that are amazing at it, and I like sitting in a room with them and they'll just come up with ideas, like idea after idea after idea, and we just flow with it. I know last time, and maybe I mentioned this in another video, but I did do another take that I never used because it was weird. Um, but you know, I'll sit in a room like with my friend Patrick, and he's just a fountain of ideas. Find a friend that's a great musician with a fountain of ideas and great musicianship. If you're as lucky as I am to have a good friend that can do those things too, um, just come up with ideas. And like, I know I'm really great at arranging, I'm good at drum programming, things like that. Basically, taking these sound palettes, that I'm provided sometimes, and sometimes you do back and forth. Like, if someone else comes up with an idea, you may come up with something off of that you never would have come up with. Just say, oh, that corporation. Let me import that. And the cool thing about Ableton, which we talked about in the last video, that I use quite a bit now, well, mostly that for pre-production. If you're in the same room on the same Wi-Fi, you can link your sessions together. So when you collab, you can really collab real time. So when they hit play, your session starts playing. You can program a drum pattern in while they're adding some shit on there, and it's ridiculous. It's dope. So, and then the same process goes for that. So, and when I'm working with other people, I think it's even more inspiring to have someone with a creative mind that doesn't think like you. By the way, shouldn't that be a metaphor for the world? Did I just stumble upon something deep? Find somebody that doesn't think like you. Maybe they're more creative, and there's no ego in this. Here I am. I'm the Bob Ross of beat making. Okay, it's like find somebody. Maybe you don't have everything in common with them, but they got some damn good ideas creatively. You go, you know what? I'm good at this. You're good at that. Let's do this. You know what I mean? I think collabing makes some of the best beats. I have collabed with a lot of other writers and producers. I think they're always better. I think the songs come out better, in my opinion, because when it's just me, I tell my friends all the time, look, and being a producer, I think I said this in the last video, being a producer, knowing your weaknesses is probably one of the best things you can do. I know what I'm not good at. Because what I'm not good at, I find somebody that is. And say, hey, can you do this and help me? Like, because the thing is, when you take your ego out of it and you let somebody do something you're not as good at, you still participating. I almost pronounced that weird. You're still participating, and the shit sounds way better than it would have if it was just you. Because I might produce some and go, that's pretty good. You know, I'd be proud of it. But then I'll do something like collab with some other people on it. And I'm like, this shit is ridiculous. Because they bring to the table things I don't bring, which is good. Table's big enough. You know what else the table's big enough for? All this hair on my face. I'm gonna keep doing these videos, but I'm gonna get rid of this shit. It's ridiculous. This is a quarantine mustache. See, because when you wear a mask, I wear a mask when I go out. I go out to Starbucks like every day, and I put the mask on. People can't see my facial hair, so then when I get home, I'm like, why am I gonna shave it? Like nobody's gonna see it. Anyway, these videos are gonna be fun. Ask me questions, please. I'll answer questions. I'm just gonna make some more videos today. This is gonna be too fun. All right, y'all. Thanks for listening and watching. Bye.